This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, the permanent representative of Algeria to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, has expressed Algeria's hope to see all parties respect the resolution adopted by the Security Council demanding an immediate ceasefire. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has said that Algeria affirms and reaffirmed that the Palestinian cause is of major priority. New bombardments have been carried out by the Israeli army against various parts of Gaza, killing scores of people, despite the UN Security Council's call for an immediate ceasefire in the territory. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Smeni. The permanent representative of Algeria to the United Nations, Ammar Benjama, has expressed Algeria's hope to see all parties respect the resolution adopted by the Security Council demanding an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Asia Bekar has more.
In a statement made after the adoption of the resolution at the Security Council, the Algerian representative to the UN said the ceasefire resolution requires the commitment and respect of the Israeli occupation.
I would like to thank all the Council members for their flexibility and their constructive way that allowed us today to adopt this long-awaited resolution, a resolution that calls for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip in order to put an end to the massacres that unfortunately are still ongoing for the past 5 months. Adopting this resolution today is but the beginning towards meeting the aspirations of the Palestinian people. We look forward to the commitment of the Israeli occupier to this resolution.
Benjama also stressed that Algeria will shortly return to the Security Council to advocate the right of Palestine to full-fledged membership at the United Nations.
I reaffirm that Algeria will shortly return to address the Security Council once again in line with the instructions of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, until the State of Palestine gains its right status as a fully fledged and a sovereign member to the United Nations.
Let's recall that the UN Security Council passed yesterday a resolution tabled by its 10 non-permanent members demanding a ceasefire in Gaza during Ramadan, with 14 votes in favor against the abstention of the United States. The resolution that was initiated by Algeria and supported by the other elected members came after the failure of the US proposal last Friday, which was vetoed by both Russia and China. Algeria has carried out intense negotiations over the last 2 days, during which she drafted a proposal tackling the major points to be dealt with immediately, notably an immediate ceasefire that leads to a permanent ceasefire, the release of all detainees and the delivery of humanitarian and medical aid.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad, Ahmed Attaf, has said that Algeria affirms and reaffirmed that the Palestinian cause is of major priority. Addressing a news conference held at the headquarters of the Foreign Ministry on the latest development related to the decision by the UN Security Council, Mr. Attaf said that the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has insisted on the importance of diplomatic efforts favoring political solutions after all efforts were hampered for the past 25 years. He also said that Algeria has always supported the creation of a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, with East-occupied Jerusalem as its capital. He added that Algeria has always strived to strip Israel of its immunity and impunity. Earlier, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has received a phone call from the American Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, related to the latest developments of the situation in Gaza. During their phone call, the two men exchanged views on the situation in Gaza and insisted on the negotiations held at the Security Council on the draft resolution presented by the 10 elected members of the UN to pave the way for an immediate, unconditional and lasting ceasefire in Gaza. The representative of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine in Algeria, Mohammed Al-Hamami, said the decision of the UN Security Council is a step towards a permanent ceasefire to end the barbaric aggression against the Palestinian people.
The decision of the United Nations Security Council is a step towards a permanent ceasefire to end the Nazi, savage and barbaric aggression against our Palestinian people. Surely the Palestinian people, their brave resistance and the support of all those standing by the Palestinian people made the United Nations abstain from blocking the resolution by using a veto. It's now immediately required from the Security Council to impose the adopted ceasefire and ensure the delivery of aid to the Palestinian people, including the equipment that cleans the rubble and begins the reconstruction. This is the role of the Security Council now. It's to impose the implementation of the resolution and impose an immediate ceasefire, and then negotiations can start to exchange detainees.
That was the representative of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine in Algeria. For his part, the ambassador of the State of Palestine to Algeria, Faiz Abu Aita, hailed Algeria's determination to uncover the crimes of the Israeli occupation and end the war carried out against the Palestinian population.
السيد بن جامع وزملائه وكل الذين شاركوا طبعا مشكورين وهذا عمل كبير.
We thank Mr. Ben Jama and his colleagues for their contribution and their immense efforts to unveil the crimes of the occupier that the West, the US in particular, and the mainstream media in the West in general helplessly try to cover up the crimes of the occupier. Algeria, with consistency and determination, jointly worked with all partners and friends in the world to put an end to this war. We hail Algeria for her constant positions and support for Palestine.
لفلسطين.
In a reaction, the representative of the Hamas resistance movement in Algeria hailed Algeria's constant efforts in support for Palestine, describing the decision by the UN Security Council as a blow to the Israeli occupier.
نرحب بقرار مجلس الأمن الذي يدعو لوقف العدوان على شعبنا.
We hail the decision by the United Nations Security Council to stop the aggression on our people. The decision is considered a blow to the occupier on the international scene, and it places everybody in a position to shoulder the responsibility which obliges the entity to completely and permanently stop the aggression on our people and put an end to the starvation policy, which means opening more crossing points to allow aid and start the reconstruction of Gaza. We hail Algerians' efforts within the international community as well as all the countries that supported and still support Palestine.
New bombardments have been carried out by the Israeli army against various parts of Gaza, killing scores of people despite the UN Security Council's call for an immediate ceasefire in the territory. Majid Mila is here with me in the studio to tell us more about the subject.
Palestinian sources said 70 people, including women and children, were killed in overnight bombardments that hit various parts of the besieged enclave, including the southern town of Rafah. The United Nations warned that the humanitarian situation continued to deteriorate in the crowded enclave where thousands of Palestinians had sought refuge, fleeing the fighting raging in other areas of the territory. The United Nations affirmed that the Gaza Strip was on the brink of famine as Israel's restrictions still undermine the entry of food into the territory. This came as the United Nations Security Council adopted the resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, a decision welcomed worldwide. It was first hailed by Palestinians' representative to the United Nations, Riyad Mansour, as marking a historic day and a significant step forward towards the cessation of hostilities.
I am proud of the unity of the Arab group. I am proud that our representative in the Security Council is Algeria, working closely with us, reflecting the demands of the Arab group, and I think today we prevailed. It is a historic day today, where for the first time after almost 6 months, the Security Council adopted a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. And we in the Arab group, from the first day of this aggression, were united around 3 objectives. The first objective was an immediate ceasefire to stop the aggression against our people. Today is a significant step in that direction.
The Arab Parliament has hailed the United Nations Security Council resolution calling for more international efforts, including by the United Nations Security Council, to fulfill the legal and historic responsibilities and put an end to Israel's aggression. Back to you, Jamal.
Thank you, Majid. Now, humanitarian coordinator and interim for Palestine, Jamie McCormick, has said Israel's planned invasion of Rafah would break the back of their response when it comes to preventing the aid crisis in Gaza from getting even worse. The UN Deputy Special Coordinator in the region said it is crucial to get more aid to those who need it.
If people are forced to move from Rafah right now, and the assumptions are it will be a large-scale incursion, therefore there could be up to 500,000 to 900,000 people moving. We cannot cope with that. There's nowhere in the world you could cope with that number happening that quickly, when we right now are in such a fragile situation in terms of our ability to address the current humanitarian situation. And right now we're in a contingency planning mode for addressing the current humanitarian catastrophe, and for that to be then doubled up by making people move, we just wouldn't be able to do that. It would be massive in every sense. It's a crisis. It hasn't been measured in this way in terms of the intensity of the totality, in terms of impact on population, of the speed by which this has happened, and the lack of hope that's built into this situation.
The UN Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territories, Francesca Albanese, said that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the Israeli occupation is committing genocide in the besieged Palestinian enclave of the Gaza Strip. Mariam Barshi has more.
A report issued yesterday at the UN officials said there are clear indications that the Israeli occupation violated 3 of the 5 acts listed under the UN Genocide Convention. Albanese said that the overwhelming nature and scale of the Israeli assault on Gaza and the destructive conditions of life it has inflicted reveal an intent to physically destroy Palestinians as a group. Entitled Anatomy of a Genocide, the report listed the violating acts as killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the group's members, and deliberately inflicting living conditions aimed at bringing physical destruction in whole or in part. Albanese noted that more than 70% of the recorded deaths have been women and children. Regarding the second violated act, Albanese said the Israeli forces have wounded more than 70,000 Palestinians and detained thousands of Palestinian men and boys, subjecting them to torture and mistreatment. On the third act, Albanese said that the Israeli occupation has destroyed or severely damaged most of Gaza's life-sustaining infrastructure, including hospitals and agricultural land.
Now, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Army General Said Shingriha, has paid a working visit of inspection to the headquarters of the Air Defense Forces Command. During the visit, the Army General affirmed the importance granted by the Army to control the airspace, given its importance in modern battles. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International.
This week I wanted to introduce you the Algerian cuisine. The history of Algerian